In deze komkommertijd, wat heb ik nou op mijn fiets hangen? It's another jam-packed episode of Future Vision Amsterdam. Photography, animation, art high and low. And music. Here's Orchestre miniature in the park.
Who was there, or where it was, and I don't care. The wind was playing with our hair, and when the rain came, everyone stayed there. The orchestra played just like it was for the last time before the war. And they played loud and they played hard. They forgot themselves and the world around. And we took off just like sunlight. The world looked good and no one cried.
Have you ever seen a fellow playing the ladder and chain? It's quite a thing. Behold. The life of a sailor is very exciting. So many beautiful places to go and so many wonderful things to see. But it's always nice to return to the place of my birth, a dirty old town called Dublin. One of the places I recommend is what the locals call the Dead Animal Museum. Sound morbid? I suppose it is, but it's the only place in Dublin you'll get to meet a dodo.
Today I'm drawing in a very special place. I'm going back to my birthplace, Dublin, Ireland, to visit the Natural History Museum, or the Dead Zoo, as we used to call it. I visited this place very often when I was young, probably once a week, maybe even more. It's a wonderful place. I have a lot of fond memories here, and I haven't been back in a good long time. The thing most people remember about the Dead Zoo is the entrance, with the 3 giant Irish elk. These deer used to roam the land in prehistory and are extinct now. My subject that I'm drawing today is going to be the Dodo Skeleton, an extremely rare specimen and one of the highlights of the museum. The upper parts of the museum are technically off limits due to fire safety and a stair collapse in 2007, but we've very kindly been given permission to film today. The building was closed in 2007 and didn't open again until 2010. It's free entry and it's right in the middle of town, so it's easy to get to. I'm really happy that kids can enjoy it again. And me. The Dead Zoo has a lot of extinct animals on display. Tasmanian tiger, the dodo, the Irish elk. They even have Brazilian insects that are labelled in Charles Darwin's handwriting, though these aren't on display. The Dead Zoo actually has 2 million specimens in its collection, but only 10,000 of them are on display due to a lack of funds and space. Drawing from taxidermy can be very useful when you have to do a long drawing that has a lot of detail because the animals don't move. But a trick that I've been taught is that taxidermy animals tend to be a bit dried out and a bit too thin, so you have to kind of puff them out a little bit. But obviously this doesn't apply if you're drawing a skeleton. I was always drawn to the animals that were odd or had big teeth. I like mouths. Something that I quite like about old taxidermy is that some of the specimens aren't stuffed very well, so they kind of look like their own animal. Some animals seem to stuff better than others. The fish seem to stuff the worst and look the strangest, while the reptiles seem to stuff extremely well. They almost look alive. It's estimated that 3 to 4 million euros needs to be raised in order to make the balconies up to fire safety standards and be open to the public once again. I drew here all the time when I was a kid. One time when I was drawing here as a kid, I accidentally left my sketchbook behind. When we returned, we went to the Lost and Found, and sure enough my sketchbook was there, but another kid had added things to my drawings. When I think about it now, it's pretty sweet. They added things like bubbles at my shark, and I think a scuba diver being attacked by the shark, but at the time I was furious that somebody had drawn in my sketchbook. In an unassuming corner of the upper floors of the Dead Zoo is my drawing subject for today. A rare composite dodo skeleton. I was planning to paint today, but I forgot that paints can be considered a flammable liquid on a plane. I was going to paint with gouache, which isn't flammable, but I wasn't going to take the risk they were going to take my expensive paints away. So instead I'm using a technique I learned at the Concept Design Academy in Los Angeles from one of my instructors, Peter Hahn. Working on toned paper, you first sketch in a light grey marker. You use the silhouette to slowly build up the drawing, starting with thin fine liner. You have a focus point, and that's where most of your detail is going to be, while the rest remains a sketch. Yes, there we go. This technique is excellent for if you don't have a lot of time or space. Bird skeletons are unusual anyway, because of this big bone in the front of their rib cage, but the dodo skeleton is even stranger. It's like a strange mix between an albatross and maybe a penguin? It's a very strange animal. The sign says it's an overweight specimen. I'm not sure how you can tell from the skeleton, though. You thicken the lines in the areas that have more focus points, and you shade areas with darker markers. I'm at the point where the details are defined enough that any inaccuracies or anything here I need to just roll with. It's important to keep that focus point detailed and let the detail fade out as you move away from that focus point with this technique. Otherwise the drawing falls apart. The darker grey, I'm going to kind of separate the lights and the darks a little bit more, so then I can figure out what details need to be defined more. It makes things pop out, kind of thing. It's a process that means you're able to quickly show a full figure without having to render the entire image. You kind of fool the eye into seeing a completed image when really there's just that focus point of the drawing. You can say a lot with a little with this technique. Skeletons are one of my favorite things to draw. You have to be very methodical with it. It doesn't make sense to go in and draw every single little detail from the beginning. You're forced to work from large shapes and then slowly work inward, developing the shapes as you go. You don't draw every individual rib. You draw the shape of the rib cage. You don't draw every single vertebrae in the neck. You draw a tube. I think I like drawing skeletons so much because I struggle with this approach in my normal drawing, while a skeleton forces me to use this process. In the end, you give it a couple of highlights with white. When taking this approach to drawing, it's very easy to overwork the drawing. You have to be very careful and know when to stop. Something I tell other people, and don't apply nearly enough for myself, is when you think it's enough, you have to stop. It makes me sad to think that children now are not able to come up here and draw like I did. They're missing out on a lot of really incredible specimens. I really hope that the upper levels are able to be opened once again soon. The Dead Zoo is free in, extremely interesting for anybody who's interested in drawing or animals, and is right in the centre of town. If you're in Dublin, it's a must-see. It was amazing to get back in touch with my roots at the Natural History Museum in Dublin. It made me feel like a child again. I specifically want to thank Nigel Monaghan, the curator, for allowing us to go up, and all the staff at the Dead Zoo for being so kind and so helpful.
Jason.
You snuck in without letting me know.
He's not. He didn't come upstairs.
I didn't go upstairs.
No,
I just came in.
He just arrived.
If you go and you happen to have some change in your pocket, you really should donate to the Dead Zoo. It's a fantastic place. It's one of the greatest collections of natural history in the world, and it deserves to be supported, so future generations can enjoy it. I've been away much too long from this place. I sincerely hope I'm able to come back again soon.
Coffee. And then go back in.
A good friend of mine, Faiyaz Jafri, is an animator and musician. His film, Baby I Love You, went down a storm at Faye's Film Festival, where we had shit, puke, piss, and rivers of blood. And that was just the audience. Never mind the films.
I love you. So, baby, I love you. So. Baby, love you. So, I do. I do. Baby. Baby. So love you. I do. Wow.
The Amsterdam Underground is a dark and mysterious place. One photographer with a keen eye and raw talent has been documenting the ephemeral performances and fabulous people on the scene. Tatjana Todorovic.
Tatjana,
Sam.
so tell me, how did you get your first camera? Was it present? Did you buy it?
Yeah, that was quite a long time ago. I was 13, 14. We're talking about early 80s. And my first camera, actually it was not bought for me. It was a camera that was around in my family. It was an old Kiev. I still have it, but I don't remember what's kind of a model. Kiev 8, I think 88 or something like that. And somehow I decided to enroll in a kind of photography course that was held by a quite famous photographer at those times in my town, and it was quite...
Where was that? Where was that?
Novi Sad, ex-Yugoslavia we're talking about. And this was a kind very famous photo kino club, so I did this course of analog photography. We're talking about 80s, and yeah, I was shooting in black and white. And then I think when I was almost 16, I got my first real camera, present from my father. It was Canon A1. That was the first kind of digital camera that was going around in these days, and yeah.
So you started initially with black and white photography.
Yeah,
and you've stuck
analog,
with it.
Of course, on the first place.
And you've stuck with it. How does it compare?
Perhaps that's why I stuck to it, because it was a kind of your first love. Actually, even after I graduated in architecture, I did work as an architect for a long time, and mostly my architecture presentations were done black and white. So yeah, somehow you get into it, and then it works for you.
And can you take a good photograph with a crap camera?
Of course. Camera is not the point, it's just the feeling that you have with it, and inspiration that, and the perfect photography doesn't mean a technically perfect execution. It means just a mood that you introduce into it.
Well, I've observed you work in two completely, almost, I think, opposite forms. One is catching moments on the hoof, like you're showing in this exhibition, capturing moments in performance, which are incredibly difficult, and you have to be almost invisible, really, to the. And then in a studio situation where everything is controlled, you establish a rapport.
Actually, that's a kind of a prejudice. Is that the right word? A prejudice that in studio everything is controlled. Everything is just what it is. Although in the studio you have all the conditions that you somehow think you have a control of, that's not really true. And when you're doing portraits, it's almost the same as when you're shooting a performance, because people during a portrait session, they continuously move, and what you have is to catch that magic angle and expression when they are kind of fearless and confident, and it does not happen in every shot. So that's all about. It's all about kind of empathy that you get into with the objects that during the performance shootings as well as during portrait shootings. Yeah. This exhibition is kind of a collection of pictures made between 2012-2016 in collaboration with Astro Teatro, Huantai Studio, Sinsing Collective, and many other independent performers. And the choice, when I was choosing pictures, the choice was intended as a combination of choosing the best pictures as well as telling the stories about performances and about performance, of course.
Do you try to tell a story with your photographs?
No, but when you do an exhibition, it's kind of choice that you do, because sometimes the pictures that you like most don't show any kind of identity of environment, and it's just a kind of moody. And if you want to tell the story, you have to show the face, connection, environment, the story. Then it's a different choice. So you have to combine it if you want.
So that's That's the
That's kind of I put a kind of statement here. That's kind of dancing, because you have to get in a deep connection with a performer or whoever is in front of you, and then you have to move along together.
yeah. That's the alchemy.
That's the alchemy. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's true.
Well, I'm off to comb my mustache and put a ship in a bottle. I still haven't got the hang of that. Tune in next time for more Future Vision Amsterdam, or visit chibichannel.com for more content that you can shake a stick at. Arr, 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 arr.